Craig, can you hear me? Dave, do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't bring up my video though. Can you either?
No,
you guys?
nothing. Nope.
Okay. I think he's got to give us permission to do that.
Oh, he's gonna have a lot more people come in a second, isn't he?
What was that, guys?
Hey, Craig, we're not able to do any video. Do you have to give us permission for that? Or maybe you just don't want to see us, which I don't blame you.
Well, we can't see them. That's the bigger key. Can you
Yes.
see them?
Well, there's only 5 people on right now.
Well, we can't see nothing. Can you see anything?
I can see Craig's screen.
Yeah, that's it. Right.
I just see Craig has started screen sharing.
Okay. I just see launching. What?
How's that?
Nope, not for Dave. Okay,
There
now
I
we
am.
got something. I don't have your screens not shared, but that's all right.
I don't see you yet, Dave. Hit your video. There you
Now he
are.
let me. There you go.
are.
Sorry about that. That was set from last time.
Oh, and then there's an agenda, a paper agenda.
I actually printed
Did you
mine.
find one? Oh, okay, you didn't have to do that.
I wasn't sure and I just did. Did you find out if things did go back? Yeah, well, if necessary. Yeah.
Hey, Todd, do you remember what Rachel, she mentioned something today when we were talking about this advanced learning plan. She called it like a success plan. Does that ring a bell? No, she used some language. She asked Matt if he knew. I couldn't remember what it was. That's all
No,
right.
but I do like the idea of that.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Justin.
All right, good evening, everyone. Who is unmuted in Coolidge? Okay, we're just dealing with a little feedback. How's that? Better? Yeah, we just did. All right. Great. Well, I call this meeting, a regular meeting of the Board of Education to order at 6 p.m. here in Coolidge and online. Can we have a roll call, please?
Audrey Adamson. Justin Anderson.
Present.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Here.
Kate Schaefer.
Here.
Maria S. Trigueros. Andy Wayert.
Here.
Aaron Waldron Smith.
Here. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item of business is approval of the minutes. Thank you, everyone. Our first item of business is approval of the minutes from the open and closed sessions of the Board of Education meeting of May 11th, 2020. Is there a motion? And a second? All in favor? Aye. I'm sorry, Justin, I didn't have you up on the screen to see if you said aye or not.
Aye.
Thank you so much. All right, and we have no communication or public comment? Okay, so we move to the consent agenda. If you'll give me a second, I need to pull item up. All right. So we do have two items pulled from the consent agenda to vote on separately. So the first recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the actions contained in consent agenda items A through M and P through R as presented. Is there a motion? Moved by.
Second by Kate.
Second by Kate. Roll call, please.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Andy Wayert,
Aye.
Aaron Waldron Smith, Audrey Adamson, Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Aye. The second recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the actions contained in consent agenda item N as presented. Is there a motion?
Moved by Kate.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Audrey. Because this is an individual item, is there any discussion about this one? Okay. Roll call, please.
Andy Wayert,
No.
Aaron Waldron Smith, I didn't hear Aaron. Did she respond?
I said no.
Audrey Adamson,
Yes.
Justin Anderson,
I'm sorry, I'm pulling this item up again in my agenda. Which attachment was it?
letter N.
Or it has to do with the retirees' premium increase.
Aye.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
And the third recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the actions contained in consent agenda item O as presented. Is there a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Moved by Aaron Waldron Smith. Is there a second?
Second by Kate.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All right, roll call, please.
Aaron Waldron Smith, Audrey Adamson, Justin Anderson,
Aye.
Kate Schaefer,
Aye.
Andy Wayert,
Aye.
Sangeetha Rayapati.
Aye. Okay, thank you. No, so the first one was all ayes, the second one was 3-3, and the last one was all ayes, correct? Yeah, the first of the poll, that was 3-3. So from what I understand, a tie in this circumstance means it goes back to the admin. They'll bring something back. Okay, any other questions? I don't see my, there we go, camera. When I switched windows, there we go. Okay, so moving on to reports, requests, and opinion, open discussion. Dr. Savage, turn it over to you and your colleagues.
Very good, thank you. We wanted to provide some follow-up information regarding the cluster grouping presentation that we had at the last meeting. As you are aware, we received the data from the Purdue study, and we were able to garner a number of recommendations moving forward. And Dr. DeBain and Dr. Pribble were going to provide us some additional information regarding our deeper dive into the cluster grouping data. So I will turn it over to Dr. DeBain.
Great, thank you. And hello, everybody. What Craig has presented right now on the screen is our future planning document that goes through this month through next school year. We decided to, and by we, Dr. Pribble and Mr. Ryerson We worked together to chunk out the recommendations and the data from Purdue and where our district was going and what we could do that we feel is going to be in the best interest of our students, teachers, and families. So what you see here is a document where we came up with our action items, and then we put them into a timeline of how we would end up rolling out these continuous improvement pieces, and then the groups that are impacted by it or are the ones who are really going to help drive the work moving forward. We took an approach where we wanted to zoom out and zoom in, meaning that we wanted to look at how this work can go across the district and impact all our buildings versus what do we have to do specifically with our buildings, or zoom in even further into what groups within buildings to be able to help. Like I said, Mr. Ryerson and Dr. Pribble were instrumental in helping get this document to where it is, and Dr. Pribble is going to help us discuss a few of the pieces that is inside the document that we're going to start working with.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I just want to say I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank Matt, Tom, and Stephanie Jordan for allowing me to be part of this process early on and getting me, basically letting me get my feet wet. So it's been awesome, and I really appreciate that. So this document, if you look at it, it covers cluster grouping, the findings from the TSCG report, and we're going to disseminate that information out to the department chairs and the building admin and process that. So that's part of this, as you can see, kind of what Matt talked about, that deeper dive and being able to look at what that report had to provide for us. One of the big pieces, if you look on the third item down, is that 50 to 70 percentile range for underserved students facing barriers. That's something that we want to communicate out and work on. So as we develop our class list for next year, we'll be able to incorporate that in to identifying those students. Another big part of this plan is, the ALP, which is our advanced learning plan, or what we're trying to do is promote talent development. This is something that Tom Ryerson started working on, and we actually had a committee formed going into the COVID-19 situation, and so that got slowed down a little bit, but we've got a plan to continue that. It's a great committee. We've got we're going to add a stakeholder, a parent stakeholder on that. That's going to help us out in terms of forming that, and then we've got a plan to go ahead and roll out the ALP plans second semester and get some feedback from building level admin and teachers on that process, so we can hope to have that finalized into going into the 2021-22 school year. And the other piece of this plan you'll see is the PD piece. We've integrated lots of opportunity to offer our staff PD and also gather feedback to the process so we can do future PD planning as well. And I just want to, if you have any questions over the document, feel free to reach out to Matt or I. Again, this is a guidance document, and it lays out the timeline. And once we, assuming everything goes smooth into this school year, we should be able to hold true to this, and really looking forward to serving all of our students, especially those that are gifted and talented, being able to provide them, develop that talent that they have, and have these advanced learning plans in place for the future.
Ready for questions? Yeah? Okay, I can only see Dr. Pribble. I can't see Dr. Dubé, so I can't see any head nodding. My question would be, how much are you including specialists in the discussion of this? The previous page we were on, the teachers who are going to teach the high-level learners, where was it, right? I can't quite find it now. In the growing advanced learners, that bit I think I was reading. Sorry, Craig. Thank you.
Oh, the professional development piece. Yeah, I think.
What's what's your thought process on getting beyond the classroom teacher for this PD, right? Because there are ways that that specialists should probably be a part of collaborating with providing those kinds of experiences for all our students.
Yeah, we had talked about being able to phase in teachers and folding in the professional development so that we're constantly evolving and getting more people trained in different ways. Our first thing was we recognize that we're coming off of this shelter, and we also have teachers who are going to have the new K-5 ELA. So we want to end up starting off with core groups to end up getting this up and running, and then start branching out and training more staff. And certainly specialists are one of those groups that we want to be able to help to elevate our students, because there's so many different ways of being gifted and showing that. And so certainly that's an area that we want to grow in as well. The plan in front of you right now is to be able to get the advanced learning plans off of the ground, get the initial professional development in, and be able to address core needs, and then start growing in ways that you're talking about.
I'll turn it over to Erin, but I might follow up.
I just want to encourage from a specialist teacher perspective that running instead of later. I think that this is a really unique opportunity to use our specialist teachers to advance our talented and gifted learners instead of reaching out to them later. That's a core model in many districts using specialists for this area. And I was wondering if you could give me an idea of what an advanced learning plan might look like. I just would like an example, if you have any idea.
Yeah, Tom, do you want to, I know Tom's here. I could give, I mean, Tom, are you on or not? Otherwise I can explain.
Yeah, I'm here.
You want to answer that one?
So an advanced learning plan is basically a document. Think of it as in terms of almost like an IEP for students, or a 504 plan that is developed with the student and the parent. It basically looks at where students are academically, looking at their assessment scores, their national percentiles, and then developing a plan in a team approach that includes goals and what are we going to specifically do to help meet the needs of those gifted and talented students. So it's a more formalized approach involving the parents and face-to-face, and creating goals specifically for those students.
And Tom's put together a flow chart for that process, and that's what the committee we're kind of developing right now, and going through to develop a plan that we want to hopefully second semester have it implemented across all 10 elementaries at each grade level on a small scale.
My follow-up question would be, I completely understand a building block approach to putting the training together, the experience together, and the program together. However, maybe we should consider more of those specialists as part of that core team rather than on the sidelines waiting for their turn. So that would just be my one suggestion. I'm sure we can follow up in our goal setting session with Dr. Savage too, and talk more about that. So we don't have to do it all online right now. But I thank you for answering our questions. Does anyone else have other questions about this particular update? Okay, and then I'll just note, taking a pause, that because we're managing the technology and the reverb all in this room, I think we had our volume down, but when we're speaking, either we need to speak real clear.
Did anybody hear anything I just said about volume? Somehow I got muted. All right, I was just saying we just need to speak loudly or turn up our volume when we're speaking. This is a technical issue. All right. Okay, so I think we'll move on now to the graduation update with Dr. Stafford.
Okay, I've turned up my volume and I am unmuted. So for graduation update, I just wanted to keep you in the loop. We've been working very closely with Principal Sanders to make sure that we're providing our class of 2020 graduates the best possible experience and listening to parent feedback that they wanted a face-to-face celebration. We do have, as I had previously mentioned, the alternative date of June 23rd at the tax layer. And I had previously mentioned that we had 2 alternative plans as well if the tax layer was not allowed to be open, July, at the end of July 23rd. Given the governor's Restore Illinois plan, we really feel like focusing on version C if the tax layer is not available at the end of July, and that would be hosting smaller in-person groups of students at the Bartlett Performing Arts Center. So Principal Sanders has done a great job, as I have mentioned, creating a logistical plan with groups of students and the times associated with each group entering the Bartlett Performing Arts Center. I will be sharing that plan out with you all so you can have a look at it. I give kudos to her team for putting together such a well thought out plan with very interesting, unique logistics so that we can honor our kids as best as possible. So at this point, we are focusing on version A and version C, either the tax layer or the Performing Arts Center, beginning on July 23rd. And if we do focus on the Bartlett Center, we will carry on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, having small groups of graduates at a time. We intend to live stream the event and also videotape the event so that we can provide our families with a holistic type video available so that the students can see their friends receive their diplomas as well. So stay tuned, but I did want you to know that we are focusing on the logistics of the plan at the Bartlett as a second option. In terms of transition planning, we do have our leadership retreat coming up on June 9th and 10th. We are very excited about that. June 8th, the day before that, is our Administrator Academy. We're excited to welcome Carlos Johnson back from Solution Tree. We have had him previously with all staff to help us delve into some professional learning on cultural competency. So he will be taking a next step level training with administrators, department heads, and cabinet and extended cabinet members at the Administrator Academy on the 8th. And then that work will launch us into our 2-day retreat on the 9th and the 10th. On the 9th, we will have all administrators present, and we will be able to focus on closing out our current school improvement goals and taking your feedback that we have tonight in our goal setting session, along with what we learn at the Administrator Academy to develop our new goals for PACE for the school year 2021. And we hope to be able to develop those and bring them to you back on June 22nd, having had the opportunity to synthesize all the feedback that we've gotten from you all and had an opportunity to see what the end of year data has shown us so that we can put together some well thought out goals for next school year. So we're excited to launch into that work. In other terms of transition planning, as you know, we are looking heavily into the fall, and we are doing some pre-planning to be able to have 3 official different approaches for the start of school year: full in-person instruction, full remote instruction, and a blended approach. We know that we do not have to do all of this alone. We've got some great resources that we are waiting on from the State Department of Ed, from the governor's office, as well as the CDC. And we also are waiting on some templates from the Illinois Association for School Administrators. So once we have all of those tools, we will be working at the retreat to formalize our plans for fall and have them done in June so that we have an opportunity to get them out to our stakeholders so that we can get some input and feedback so that we are ready to go in August for whichever way that we are required to deliver instruction. We certainly are hoping for the opportunity to begin the year in person, but we are planning for everything. So I wanted to give you an update on that. And finally, with the CARES Act, we have had a couple of leadership meetings now to dive into the best ways to utilize those one-time allocation emergency funds. So we are focusing on really 4 priorities now, with the first one being closing the digital divide, making sure that we have enough devices and connectivity in our households of our students. Carrying on with summer meal distribution this summer for our students in collaboration with the YMCA and possibly some other entities. We are also looking at services and professional development and supplies, as well as any staffing needs that we might have. So this grant is due at the end of June, and so we will be finalizing those needs at the leadership retreat as well, so that we have the plan and we have the supplies and the tools and the learning to be able to move forward as best as possible. So those are the updates that I have for you tonight. We are definitely still in planning mode and in motion, but I wanted to give you an update and excited to engage in goal setting with you this evening and be able to synthesize all of that and finalize our new goals for next year to bring back to you at the end of June. So any questions for me tonight?
Sorry. Yes, I had just had a follow-up question on the graduation update. If the team could just let the Board of Education know if we have any responsibilities over those 3 days. Our usual responsibility is passing out diplomas, but given restrictions on numbers of people and all those kinds of things, I think it would be good if somebody from the team that's planning it just told us what we're expected to do, if anything. And also there's typically a speech, but I would imagine by the board president, but I would imagine that's not necessarily needed if you're on a tight timeline or you're trying to limit the numbers of people in that face-to-face ceremony, if it's planned.
Those are good. Muted. Those are both really good questions, Sangeeta. We will probably have the speeches pre-recorded, so you are not off the hook. We are excited to hear your words of wisdom. We will be able to pre-record those speeches and have those ready to go. But in terms of how many people will be inside of the Bartlett Performing Arts Center at a time, we will definitely get back to you. We want to be able to have as many students as possible and allow each student to have at least 2 guests with them, fully knowing that we need to keep the number under 50 so that we are adhering to the governor's guidelines if in fact we are able to transition into phase 4 of his Restore Illinois plan. So as far as board members being in person, it is more likely that the majority would be virtual. However, we certainly can make concessions, and the Performing Arts Center is certainly big enough where we can spread out, but we want to keep to the appropriate number according to the plan at the time.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would want to be a reason you would have to have fewer students at a time and their families. So I think I could speak for most of us saying that makes sense. We would not insist on being there in person. Yeah.
One other thing I know I've been part of the emails regarding project graduation and the conversations, clearly a gathering like that is not something that will fit into any of the phases soon. So I just know that there is plans going on of what they'll do with funds or how things will move forward for that. So I know some people have volunteered at that event and that in the past. And so if there's an opportunity to help in any way, I will let you know as those plans proceed.
No? Okay. Just making sure that we don't have to be there, or at least represented in some way.
Yeah, does that make sense? As part of our follow-up, just making sure that we're not missing a policy where we have to be there somehow. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Financial reports, anything, Mr. McDermott?
No, all I'll share with the board is this is the first time in many months you got this report because of our skeleton crew at Allendale. But the two things we should know, we're revenue is tracking very well and our expenditures are tracking well. So we should be in a very favorable position for the end of the year. Next year, we'll go over the budget, or next month, we'll have the budget presentation for the next school year. And that's going to get a little bit more trying as we go on. But for right now, this year, we're really looking favorable. So if anybody has any questions afterwards or during it, I'd be glad to answer now or later.
Anyone? I don't think we have any questions, Mr. McDermott, but I don't think that our 3-3 vote on that recommended motion, the second one tonight, has to be a mystery. I think we should be able to talk openly about why now with an even split that we're sending that back to you and asking for more feedback on what can be done. And so the people that voted no to the recommendation, if you're willing to share anything, I know I would just like to tell you that this is part of my questions about how are we able to help the community right now or looking to the future, those members who are really potentially struggling due to the economic downturn. I know I had sent an email to both you and Dr. Savage a few weeks ago about that kind of thing. So that's all I'm asking you to do, is to continue to maybe use an X-Acto knife here with how we're carving out funds for all those we're responsible to based on our practices. But I didn't think that vote needed to be a mystery, so I wanted to share that with you. If you want to say anything, that's
I'll share. Historically, I have voted no in this area, and I just reiterate I don't feel good about putting the cost upon people who have already served and are no longer working and bringing in income. It's not something I can get behind. It's the same reason I've always had, but I just want to make sure that for new board members, that is my reasoning for voting no.
I can echo that. I mean, Aaron and I have been on the same page every year about this. I just don't feel comfortable, and I just can't raise premiums on people who have given their working career to us and are on a fixed income. Whereas, the other vote with the teachers, I mean, that's negotiated. They have an opportunity to have a say in that. So I just don't feel comfortable voting yes on increasing health costs on people that don't have a say and are on a fixed income.
All I would write to it,
What did
you
say,
could
Dave?
feel comfortable with not only sharing with me, but there's, Rachel's on the committee, as well as your own Kate is a board member on your committee. So you can feel free to share with her so we know those concerns even after the fact. But it's not a Dave McDermott recommendation. It's an insurance committee recommendation. And you do have some other people besides me echoing that. But we hear you. We'll go back.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple other updates before we shift to goal setting, and I'm not sure what else all of you all want to share. And I gotta shift to see if you raise your hand or not to add something. I did want to just report that I sat in on a call last week with IASB, and it was another thing like I reported last time, where it was just a lot of people airing concerns, like things that we really want to know. Lots of people are still talking about just the budget hit that is potentially coming to everyone. So that happened, but I am signed up, and everybody's free to sign up if you look back at emails for the chat with Dr. Ayala at the Illinois State Board of Education. All the acronyms are killing me. But she's doing a chat at, I believe it's 12 o'clock, or is it 1 o'clock this Friday? And that's free. There's no registration cost, but you are supposed to register through IASB. So I figured, given that that is also when we're technically moving to phase 3, certainly superintendents are going to know more before we do, but the fact that she's making it available to school board members, I thought was good, and we might learn something that way. So that's happening. I think that is all from me. Anyone else have updates? Erin?
I just have a quick question. Rachel, do you have any objection to a board member sitting in on listening to the solution tree speaker?
That would be fantastic. We are going to bring him in person. He did offer to do the training virtual, but felt like if he were present, it would be far more effective. And we determined that if we are going to be at the Bartlett Performing Arts Center, it is a large enough space that those that want to come in person can do so and be very much spread out. So I'm thinking that that should be just fine, and I can get those details to you.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move from item 6 to item 7, our beloved goal setting that we've been trying to do for weeks. And I think, Craig, was your plan to stay for that? Would you be able to broadcast us? Because we can't sit in front of our computers. You just be in charge of keeping the Zoom meeting open. Okay, so just for the record, Craig Reed is going to set up a remote camera so that we can step away from these screens, but still be a part of broadcasting the meeting. And so during that time, I guess we'll just talk about procedure. You all recognize the Post-its back there? This has been our procedure, I think, 3 years, that I've been on here. We've done them up here before. And I think we just each take a particular color over there. One of the colors, hopefully we can leave the black, but if that, did you already fill orange? Okay. And then take your time, I think, let's focus on one paper at a time, and we just take our turns going up there so we can maintain social distance. But I'm also fine wearing masks during this part, so we're not too far away. And Justin, are you there? Okay, as long as Justin can stay a part of things with us over there, and someone who's on a screen can alert us to him raising a hand to contribute or telling us to write something up there, that'd be great. Sound okay?
I can do that.
Awesome, thank you. So we'll log off, Craig, if you're keeping us on. Yeah, from these computers here. And Craig will keep the meeting open. Justin should just stay on there. Yeah. Okay. And while we're getting set up, I want to take a minute to look back here at what we did last year. You'll see the reminders of the team.
think I want to start here with Mr. Gold just to see how we accomplished what we thought we set out to do. Right, and I know we converted this into a nice thing, like Matt made it out of it into a chart and all of that stuff. But I think we definitely did this. PR person, right? Yes. We've done more teachers, right? Yes. But we have not necessarily gotten to class size down. Class size down. We've added at the high school. And that's pretty much in existing, yes, disciplines, right? Raptor Savage, we did this with Raptor increasing, yes? Yes. To improving safety. I feel it's already done back up here, but if we've invested resources, like for the PD center, right? That was somewhere last year, wasn't it? Continually making building improvements to make them attractive places to be. Personnel, we definitely did MHS counseling, right? And every, oh, no, that's MHS specific. We did do counseling.
Added 5
around
But
the
I think-
district.
That wasn't like counseling, that was
Structure. Yeah. That was improving services. Right. Current counseling staff provide. Nicely. Yeah. I'm not putting a check mark. So. Okay.
PR you can cross off, because we,
Yeah.
we
We did hire more teachers. I think we still, when we look back at community views, they still want to see classroom size reductions across, especially the elementaries, right? So that isn't going away. Probably never will go away. But equitable facilities. Work on that. I'll need to work on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the building.
We don't. Yeah, and we don't have AC in all the elementaries. And we have a huge issue.
Yeah.
And for, just tell me shut up if I talk about it. I think it's a huge issue if we're talking about, we're not yet, but what if we have to have altered plans because of remote or because of pandemic related school days, right? We can't go all calendar or any of that, because we're not ready with the facility yet. But that, that solution to having kids go to school at different times of the year, or whatever, about the right, without increased parental involvement. I think it's happening in different parts of the district. That the mentor program, I was just gonna say the mentor program, that is awesome. Continue with progress.
At least it's started.
We have progress. We have like the university thing for people coming together for different conversations that are of added value to them that are already happening. So I mean, community business plans, the community conversations of people who are putting out a variety of options that depending on the parents. But I do think the equity. I don't need to be mom for a minute, but that's not bleeding through, right? Oh yeah, I was thinking, right. We've done that before. All right.
It's the budget, Dave, to paint the walls.
Sorry, Dave. All right. So.
But I think that last one, it kind of goes back to an ongoing thing. We're never going to be satisfied with parent involvement. Obviously, going to be continuing.
All right, let's say equity and connection. So with schools. So like I think, yeah, that one I think is. Is also a big part of the equity and we still have ways to go. There's been improvement though. Yeah, I know. Well, are we not, Dr. Savage, with our person taking over for stuff in Jordan? I don't know if I remember it, but like, and our PR director, we can really increase connection in multiple languages. Correct. So that's something we've talked about. And like the working with between Leslie and Candace. Yeah, or is that something that we need to end up putting down as that? Well, I think it's I just can't remember if we've talked about it already. Well, but I think it's ongoing. I mean, because you're going to run run into situations. So I'm gonna write ongoing, and then, yeah, we'll do the hand raising. I think there's a difference between district goals that we're trying to get done in a year and ongoing goals that should always be met. Continuous improvement areas. So what I would hope to do then is take those things, those ongoing things, they should probably be part of our values and keep down there that are guiding principles that are ongoing. So when we write those down, yeah, let's all go back there together. If we're, I think that was the most important thing to look at.
Well, let's make sure we review it.
Okay. Well, actually, why don't you be the scribe for going through, because we've already decided we're keeping some things, you know. If you let's put an umbrella over, well, the umbrella here is equity. Yeah. So our value and belief is that our students deserve equity in their learning experience. So students deserve physical, communication, and curriculum. Deserve what? Equity in the learning experience for students in physical, space, curriculum, and opportunities and communication.
So we need it in physical space?
Yeah. Curriculum.
Oh, spell curriculum, because I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Google, how do you spell curriculum?
Yeah, really. I think, then what was the second one of our goals?
So physical space, curriculum, and
Opportunities.
Thank you, Google.
All right, Google.
What was the third one?
Opportunities.
And then
Communication.
Put that in our value beliefs, we can decide how, particularly this next year, our goals, how we use the new role.
Right, so all that is gonna transfer down to each one of them. All right, so we're still talking about fiscal responsibility, treating employees well, parents. I think we need to now go and add what we want to over there individually with our pen. Our ideas, not yet. Our values and beliefs, what we think as a district we care about the most right now.
Okay. Bless you.
District in a whole cares. I think it's you as a representative.
Bless you.
Oh my gosh. That's how we hold.
I apologize for my horrible memory.
I'm gonna put up the fiscal responsibility bit because we've been starting to have those discussions about what 2022 might look like, right? As opposed to 2021.
Yes.
I have my answer. Okay, somebody else? Yeah, right.
Thank you for being here.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it's like we're gonna go around.
I know, look at us.
Round and round. Mulberry bush. I'm writing something.
We already have, I don't know if we want safety as something else beyond the equity of these things.
I think
But
safety is an
Yeah.
ongoing goal as
Yeah.
well. Just took mine.
But I think, in my mind, I think safety, but it's also in terms of physical, but also the sort of,
Oh, social emotion.
yeah, so. I'm gonna look at my handwriting. I was just started writing emotional, social, citizen.
That's right. Justin have any input?
I just asked him, I told him what you were doing, and then had anything to add.
Thank you, Kristen.
Andy.
I don't know how am I gonna say it? Like being like valued in the community. I don't know, like a center of the community.
That's it, like that. That we're community cornerstone. Are you dead?
Mine has a little safety.
Oh, shoot. Are yours green too? How do we go to the? That's
Uh-oh.
okay. It doesn't matter. We're just.
This is that black one.
That's mine. Just.
All right.
We'll be able to tell by the handwriting.
Yes. And you might be able to read Andy, and maybe not exactly which ones were mine. The ones you can't read, they're fine.
I'm still a little unbalanced, so.
We won't tell anybody.
I mean, like all areas of strength for a student is valued instead of.
Yeah. Pathways and. Anything else underpinning thoughts? Oh, value in all talents, all right.
That could go.
So we recognize that kids can excel in different areas and different talents. That should be the
Well,
cornerstone.
and
The conversations about that with the cluster group. Yes, like I said,
Yeah, that's one that I see that should come down the pipe.
okay.
Why don't you take that and stick it in that blank space while you're talking about it, so we can all see all of it, and you can write on it if you want to.
This one,
Yeah.
just wanted it for comparison's sake. I feel like,
Again, now, how much matchup do we have under values and belief with the vision we had before that we continue to have? I feel like we still want to be a district of distinction, you know? We've got lots of things going for us. This path stuff, the pathways, yes, is really important to us still. If we're talking about valuing all talents, all skills, all abilities, all of that kind of thing.
And I'm gonna just say that assigning day, I think, to me, is so important, and not just for sports, but let's bring in.
that's the value of all talents.
Yeah.
We're recognizing.
But I think I'd like to see us do something.
yeah, and to that end, like I think we need to expose different students to different pathways. Like what I always get
Open pathways.
in the trades is I hear guys say, all the schools want to send us is kids that can't do anything else, or kids that are on the wrong path. It's like, that's not, I mean, that's great. We'll take them and we'll make them great tradesmen, but we want your top tier kids too. I mean, we want smart electricians, smart plumbers, smart operators, and we don't, we need to expose kids to all possibilities.
Okay. Put pathways underneath there.
It's almost like a mind shift. Like you don't have, an honor student can be a plumber.
Yes, exactly.
It's a mind shift.
And I can just say that I know a lot of kids who went through the engineering program at Moline and wanted nothing to do with that once they stepped out. But had they been exposed to electrical or some of those other things, they might have gone that direction.
If I could say what my vision for Moline is, the traditional track is on. You can't say this is the honors pathway, this is the college style. This is the traditional track.
are advised or encouraged or not discouraged.
Right. From the day when we've been on the board, that has been a constant goal for us. I feel like that is something that has stayed
Even as board members have
shifted out and shifted in.
yes.
Yeah, I think that's a nice commonality. I think I'm concerned with structural issues.
Buildings?
No, structures that need a little bit of
Social
dismantling. I mean, there's a reason we were called out for bias in the Purdue study.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And there's a reason for that at all levels. And they all have their own culture of teaching and learning and being. And I just think we have to really look hard at what we're preserving that divides us, that divides students from opportunities, right? So this is just an example. My kid got accepted into Link Crew this week. And I thought, well, that's great. But did she get accepted because she's an honor student and they knew she'd be okay in a leadership role, or assumed I have no idea, right, if other kids got brought in. Now, I could go ask, and that would be simple, but I think there's a prevalence of sometimes the same people getting the same kind of opportunities, and we need to broaden the number of students who are feeling welcome to try for opportunities, so more kids have more diverse opportunities.
We run into that at work too. It's that you always go to the same people because you know that you can count on them. So what we need to do is open up that.
We need to bring kids up. Like we should be bringing kids into the culture or whatever of the school that we necessarily wouldn't do it if we didn't reach out.
Right. So the woman who got the Golden Apple Award, Margarita Mojica, is a good friend of mine. And what she does with the one-by-one program is reach down and show kids how to sit at a formal dinner, how to go for different opportunities, how to take advantage, how to see what's possible in college or after high school, right?
I think, yeah, her messaging is more of like, I deserve that space. Like, like it's the fact that everyone is deserving of having a space at that table. And so just to, yeah.
And
It's empowerment, but it actually
But,
challenges the structures
exactly.
that would maybe potentially hold kids back from having that experience.
And in that, I think we continue with the including mentoring the parents, because bringing the parents in, they will be more likely to encourage their students. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you're sitting out here for Link Crew, I don't feel like that's a parent. I'm just using that as an example. I feel like that's a structure issue. But what I'm saying is, at a younger, in the lower grades, if we're getting the parents more involved at the lower grade,
It takes all of it, is what you're saying.
yeah, it's not just.
Yeah, but we need to be reaching beyond.
I would like there to be why we have the structures we have. My child's involved in all of this. She's in a Link Crew, and I have my daughter's in web. But why do we have them? Do we have them to say that we have them, or do we have them because they're actually doing good? Sometimes I feel like our structures are about, I do this, and I'm popular, and I'm that kid, as opposed to actually serving the community.
Well, there's actually staff that will say this will be good on your college entrance applications, right? That's a true statement about things, but yeah, you're saying the why behind some things. I can understand that. I think what we really are talking about is these are all the players in the structures that exist, and they all have to shift responsibility if we change the structures as a whole. Like, in whatever ways that admin can figure out how to change what we're talking about. I would say the arguments that UT is making about getting rid of class rank plays right into this. For me, I would take the same path because it challenges the past structures where you're designated as an elite somehow, and I know from the college experience in my job that we're not looking at all of those older markers, older structures for an entrance.
I think that's what I'm talking about. What's the why? What is the why of our structure? That's what I'm getting at. Like, what's the why?
Just reevaluate.
Reevaluate our structure.
I mean, we don't need to.
You don't have to throw everything out.
Right, you don't have
That's
to.
not what I'm getting
There's
at.
not change for change's sake. I mean, change what's working and what's not working, and then maybe it's not a whole overhaul. It's a tweak. Like getting rid of the class rank is, I think that's a great idea. It just doesn't make sense anymore.
Doesn't have value.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it's the
hold
value,
weight.
and it has a
It's the value, yes.
not saying we're fake, but it has an interesting, the value that we'll get out of it is for certain thing with tax program or other things like that. What is the value of claiming something just to have it?
So other big vision.
Under no circumstances do I agree with getting rid of class rank. That is absolutely ridiculous. We need to give the kids something to aim for and honor those who hit that achievement. Every single one of our students can aim for that and hit that if they want to. And we offer the same help and ability to all.
Well, I think I understand your point, Justin, but a GPA speaks more to that goal than an actual designation of what you are out of however many people. Because there's many times there's however like 10 people with the same GPA. So it's actually in my opinion, it's strive for a high GPA as opposed to a particular rank. I get what you're saying. And I would imagine that if that conversation went any farther, the administration would have to share information with us about the pros and cons. It's an example of a structure. We'll just leave it at that.
I disagree.
I mean, I don't think we should be saying that any other member's idea is ridiculous.
No, I
First
get
off,
it. No, I understand
but,
what he's saying.
To say you disagree is understandable.
Can I give another example of a structure and a why?
And a why? Sure.
Okay. Y'all are familiar with this argument, so brace yourselves. First, I want to thank everybody for giving us the data that we have asked about finals policy. I'm still asking for it to be really examined why we do it. I understand what I'm being told. The adding of the day still doesn't answer the fundamental problem, which is if someone is sick, they're sick, they shouldn't be coming to school, especially now with COVID. How can we possibly ask our parents and our students to make that choice just so they don't have to take finals? And the bottom line is our curriculum should not be based on attendance. It's just like class rank. Sitting in a seat and getting out of a test is not value. What's our why for that? I want to understand better, and if as a board we put something forward and ask for the why and it doesn't change, then I think that why has to be clearly communicated then to the community.
So how about clear communication? Of whys. I would say that was probably part of my bigger reaction about the high school pass system, is that I wasn't getting the why. It was just done, so. Other big picture things that are part of.
Are we just saying the ones over here, we're just going to?
Yeah, we were working on
ones. Saying like the district of distinction one, I think we want to add that to our.
And we just touched on communications, but district of distinctions, I think that could flow under here. Pathways, and because of the pathways and just what we're able to provide students is what makes us distinctive.
Yeah.
I think what I'm after.
And also the cornerstone of the community, I think also falls within that too.
I think then talking as we go toward the goals of the spouse, and how does that lead into things like we have the PR personnel and other things, that we're able to actually do some more actionable things that help promote us be that district of distinction. There's parts of this that clearly already are that, and then, but is that branding and messaging getting out there in terms of those big picture things we talked about.
So wise and what? It's what we're doing.
We've kind of skipped over all schools equal same, admin are working, or all ad schools admin working towards best practice.
Yeah, so that would come under our values and beliefs of equitable learning environments and all of that, right?
And our attention to new funding. Okay, I'm just making sure we get this.
I think that, where's the funding?
It says attention to new funding.
Okay. Let's just leave under our fiscal, like, we're undergirded by, is that a good word?
Undergirded, yes, it is.
It supports.
I still think we need to look at the counseling department versus advising. Because I really feel that is, you know.
That's just two very different.
Yes, and if you are a counselor, it doesn't mean you're an advisor.
Yes. It's vice versa, yeah, absolutely.
Or vice
Yeah,
versa.
the roles the people play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important because when we're talking about all these players, right? We're talking about sometimes shifting roles, right? And that's hard for people, but it might be necessary.
Okay.
Anyone else?
What, and I have no answer.
Okay.
But back to the counseling department. What if you're a B and the counselor that's in charge of Bs is not someone you connect with or who is helpful to your issue? What do you do then? Like those are the structures I'm concerned about. Like, are you like you're trapped? What do you do? Because you're a B and Bs go with this person.
They come to you, Kristen? or they go to Trista to ask for a different counselor? Or? Okay.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You just don't click with someone. You don't
It's not
click
a
with
bad
them.
thing, but I'm a 15-year-old and I always know that I can go to somebody else. Like
Right.
I want to be, and they're just.
So there's
That makes it.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Right,
But,
yeah, exactly.
But it's empowering.
Well, teaching our students in terms of
Advocating for themselves.
so the self-advocacy, which comes with hopefully growing, good citizens and community members and all of that.
Well, so one thing I've done in my work is along those lines is when someone needs a different voice teacher, they have to come to me and talk to me about it as the head of that area, and then we talk about it together. But I lay that out in a handbook that they get, right? So structurally, we should make sure our whys and whats and hows are all lined up somewhere and accessible to
Communication
students.
is equitable, that like that.
The hows they have to be
I feel like we're in journalism. Who, what, when, where.
I know. I know the same thing. Who, what, where, why, how, when.
So
We are telling the story of the district, so.
Yes, we are.
Boom, tight end.
Good job, Andy.
Mic drop.
I'm out. That's all I have.
all right, cool. Justin, you got any more on vision for the district?
Nah,
Okay. Okay.
Do you want me to go get community views?
not that anyone, no, too much conversation to add.
No, you should tell us now because this was our one big shot at goal setting. We're gonna pull community views up, and we have on the board the grid of meeting information. And Dr. Savage, I forgot to tell you that I was thinking we should try maybe a virtual community conversation since a lot of people are used to online meetings.
you want me to?
We
spell
could
out
schedule
the
one
right
at some point. Yeah, just put it over top of the.
So would you like some notes, or I have the answers to each of the questions? But I guess.
I think this is just for reference. I think,
Okay.
could you give us your opinion, since this is tends to end up collaborative after you listen to us, right? What you think are the biggest takeaways from families in the district of the 4 things we got, the meetings we got to have?
I think that you have covered you've spoken about the ones that definitely come to mind. Number 1, class size. You spoke about that. You spoke about safety and equity of our facilities. Those are a couple of the big pieces that have come up. Adding additional counselors has come up. And definitely I heard the differentiation between counseling and advising and beefing up the social emotional portion of that role. So those are the big ones that come to mind. Let me just scroll down to the areas of concern. So positive, what needs attention, spacing, facilities issues. Definitely the system of giftedness, which we are embarking on digging deeper into the transition of the PATS program and honors and all of the information that was revealed in the Purdue study. So we're going to be focusing on the systems of gifted learning at our leadership retreat to be able to pull that together. Let me see.
Which I think goes to what we're going to be trying to work on with cultural competency. Representation, so that equitable things we talk about like beliefs, that then we see all of our whole community represented in the variety of opportunities. That makes sense. So like just like the reports regarding the programs, that you know, it seem to have the full representation of the diversity of students that we have. That we should be looking for that not only in the honors and the gifted, but as we're looking at the other opportunities like the Link crew, like the you know, fine arts, all of those things. So
I have a quick question. I saw on there one of the concerns is homework. Dr. Savage, do we have an official policy on homework in bullying?
I don't know that.
Yourself
Is
up
it
there.
on mute myself?
Yeah, that way we can.
Justin, you can hear Dr. Savage?
No.
Oh, he can't hear. Okay, there we go. Yeah, just Kristen's got you Justin's comment. Oh, can you please read it because we're not close to it.
Purdue study regarding the bias. That is called bringing the class back to teach kids some basic skills to advise it. And then under no circumstances drop class running. Everyone has their
Okay. So Dr. Savage, homework.
I don't know
that policy, and Kristen, correct me, I don't know that we have it specifically delineated, like what is the appropriate amount by grade. I have seen that in other districts.
No, in my district at elementary level, I was just curious if we even had anything.
I think it's just at the direction of the superintendent, creating a structure, if you will, within the buildings and in the grade levels. But I definitely think that that's something that we can work on this year. Kristen, are you aware of anything else in policy?
Discipline, I think, too. The issue of consistency.
Right, there
feel
needs to
like
be.
There might be some things, it's section 6, so it's not my section, but there might be.
I don't necessarily have any feeling, but I think consistency is one of the issues I hear and getting from reading that thing.
Yeah, consistency is definitely. I can tell you stories. So, this is just anecdotal, and it's about e-learning. One of my good friends, a couple, they have a son that's in first grade at the same school my daughter is in. Their son does a lot more interaction, both with the teacher and the other kids, versus what my daughter is doing. And it's a whole different structure of how the teachers are doing e-learning, and that's within the same grade at the same school.
But different teachers?
Different teachers.
Okay.
Different teachers, but wildly different approaches and different, I think he's having a better e-learning experience than my daughter is, and she'll be fine. She's weird and loves kind of nerdy stuff. She'll be fine, but I worry about the other kids in her class that don't have that or that aren't like that may be falling behind. So
There are just some things.
and that's just a case in point of there's no consistency.
Even more important as we go into a school year full of unknowns. Yeah. Even if we get to pick a structure and we start that structure, and it could change during the year, and the district families deserve to sort of count on as much consistency as possible between experiences.
I don't want to say that I'm not trying to take individuality away from teachers and how they teach. I just think for a parent, when one kid has 6 hours of homework, and then another kid in the same grade, just in a building away, has none, there's got to be a little more consistency. There's got to be a better idea.
Yeah, I mean, not every teacher needs to do the same exact thing, but there needs to be at least a platform from which.
I'm listening. I'm just like, my thought is if we end up having to go back to some more online, is there a way that maybe if we have 2 second grade teachers that they can work together and share the resources and, so that we kind of get everything. I mean, we don't want to dig into this COVID too deep, but that's an option instead of just having Mrs. Smith teach her class and Mrs. Jones teach her class. Can Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones have a first grade class together? And
that totally comes back to here, where we would expect to carry through that staff, are linking back to trying to provide students with equitable learning experiences, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's on the right path, and we'll transform all that into goals.
I just want to note that if Dr. Savage or whoever admin decides to take up a homework policy, that it would be data driven. I don't mean just be like, hey,
Absolutely.
you can only have one worksheet on Tuesday. That's not what I'm after.
Yeah,
I would totally mean data driven.
Yeah, none of our ideas.
We don't
that
care
we're
about
tossing
Aaron's
out.
feelings. We care about
Best practice.
Yeah. You bring up a point when we're talking about consistency. We talked about clear communication, but we're also talking about consistency in a lot of different ways. I think we have AP that's possible coming out of new PR stuff that's really, really important. So we have consistency in how everyone in the district is connected to PR, right? Like staff, teachers, admin, they should all be operating under the same policies regarding social media, anything with the press. I mean, now we have a central person who can vet all that stuff and who can make sure everybody is abiding by best practice with regard to all of those outlets.
Appropriate. Well, and consistent across the board. And
Consistency will create equity. It doesn't allow for these students not to get something from these students. No, I mean,
So-
having a base platform.
I've talked to Sangeeta about this, but our PR person, if it is something that says Bettendorf, if it's Bettendorf baseball or if it's Bettendorf VHS library, the PR person has to be an admin of it. Because the message, they're the person the message goes through, and you're representing Moline. So it can't be Bobby Joe is in charge of the account and the PR person doesn't see it and help with the message.
And then all of a sudden there's something there that we need to reach out and say, we gotta.
Yeah. So when we're talking, you mentioned best practice. This is best practice for everyone.
Yes.
I think there's been some concerns about that in the last year
Sure.
at lots of different levels. So
I just think the message, if it says Moline,
it should go
I
through
mean,
candidates.
anybody that works
No surprises.
outside of the school, like, I know I couldn't write a tweet for my work. They were like, what is he gonna say? I type something out, I send an email, and they reword it and they put it out. Like that's their profession. Our PR person that's what they do. I don't think we should be asking a gym teacher to be the spokesman for athletics or whatever. It needs to be a professional.
There's also anecdotal evidence too that we should maybe do some PD around how staff represents their own individual social media, et cetera, right? Because even though it's their individual, they have freedom of that, right? There's always things that reflect on the district. And so I just think, I don't know if that training has happened. I don't know if it was expected to happen in teacher education programs or like before they were certified or where it is, but I think it doesn't ever hurt under best practices to double check that staff knows what's expected for good practice.
Anecdotal. We had an administrator on her own personal time put something in Bettendorf, and it became a Bettendorf issue. It quickly spiraled into something bigger. So I think I just want to. That's a great idea.
So sounds like we're shifting into our big picture things into some specific things. Thank you. Justin, anything to add at this point? Have you typed anything else or?
Nope, good so far.
We need to turn that. I turned that down when Dr. Savage.
I'm good so far.
Okay.
Say it again, Justin.
I'm all good so far.
Okay, thank you.
So we had to move to 21st century without denying tradition. So what can we preserve?
I think that's still with structures and whys and hows. I think that needs to stay.
So that was what can we preserve?
From church, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just because you question something doesn't mean that
Right, exactly.
you think it's wrong.
Well, and as,
Yeah,
you know,
you
and
just constantly need to evaluate.
there's not just one body that makes any decisions. There's committees, as Dave mentioned, right? There's committees that inform any choices going
Well, I
forward.
mean, yeah, like the class rank, like evaluating that constantly makes sense. It does.
So move to diverse learning and materials.
Which is with our equity and cultural awareness.
Adopting different ways to deliver instruction, standards
based,
self-pacing.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that
Oh,
is
yeah.
part of pathways. It's another pathway. Like some kids have been thriving in this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This, for some
Yes.
kids, this is like.
This is a
how
dream
we
come
never
true.
had-
Oh, yeah, there's, yeah.
Mhm.
People are like, this is the best. Not having to go to a place that.
We have control.
Rowan's done by noon and she can do her own thing. Like, she's loving this.
Controlling our message, which I think we have,
I think that we've just discussed that.
that PR. Well, I don't know. Maybe we should do the next one. Support and evaluate our superintendent.
How are we doing on that?
Check that off.
You did okay? Sure. I do
Intentional
intentional use of 1% funds, which
We're doing that.
yeah. Safe school updates.
Yeah, that's a
Well-kept
continual.
buildings.
Yeah.
Have we got that anywhere though?
It was under the safety stuff here and, stuff like that. I think when we get there, we'll have a separate page for the ongoing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you guys prep an ongoing page?
Here, we can just
Here's
do it
a
up
blank.
here.
Oh, yeah, I have that.
When was the last time you watched it?
I think we come over with our ideas are, different pathways for what.
Justin left.
Justin left.
Can't stand Justin or both like, and we're out of
You're
here.
hanging in there. Who's still with us?
Justin's still with us and Candace.
God bless her.
Candace is enjoying listening
Oh,
to
Candace,
this.
okay.
Candace can, if she hears us, she can hear all of the things that we're putting
That
on.
we're
her
saying,
plate. You see how many things are on your to-do list, Candace? Okay, anything else to abstract from previous year?
Safe school updates, updated work buildings, equity, safety,
How
procedural.
about updating diverse learning materials?
So that is, I mean, that started with the new K-5 has, I mean, better representation than that. The new English textbook has been good. I mean, I've read quite a few of the things that are in Tori's and stuff.
Still think our novel studies.
Yeah, I think there's definitely ways we can, that's a continuous sort of thing, is we're just evaluating as things come to the time that we need to replace things, or from the supplemental materials that teachers are using, really challenging them and having things available and giving examples of things that meet those needs. So, oh Lord, this is so much information.
But I think I want to go back to diverse learning materials and curriculum. We're talking about that still in the traditional, like, here's your textbook, it's got some diverse stories in it. I still feel like that's a patch. That's not aiming at everyone. That's not that I'm not happy with it. Yes, yay. But are all of our materials set to reach all students or just some students?
Well, I think, can I just say, I think that teachers, as the curriculum is updated, I feel like they're finding new ways that they can present
I'm
things.
gonna be blunt. There are things in Moline High School and the materials that they're reading that I read 20 plus years ago. And that's like, why, how? You know, I'm not picking on Dickens, but Great Expectations versus maybe Angela's Ashes, or that's when I, like, we're not.
There's not been, I would agree, I guess, with the supplemental selections beyond that. The new textbook were all things that I read in high school. There weren't any current novels and stuff being selected as a thing, because those are the things that are studied, research, and there's materials available, there's all these.
So we're still circling around the cultural competency and best practices comments there. Or,
So I guess my idea is maybe that we need to make sure it's trickling down to all departments.
Okay. So we're gonna, what did I just?
Consistency.
Said the.
Consistency.
I mean,
I'm gonna say
consistency in communication, like, everybody's gotta get the same message. Everybody has to get
It goes
the
back to
message.
what you and I talked about, don't be afraid to think out of the box. And that has been one of the things, you know.
But I hate that phrase.
I know.
I get what you're saying, but.
But, you know, it's like, just because you think that you have to teach this, doesn't mean that you can't take something from today, you know, a newer novel or.
Well, let me touch base on that from a different angle. So if we want to say that we want to be a district of distinction, right? We want to have
Vision.
Yeah, thank you. District of distinction. We want to really offer something in a way maybe others don't, you know, based on data, right? Or best practices. Then we should be doing online PE that we brought back in November, December, right? That's the kind of out of the box, like new delivery pathway opens up possibilities, and possibilities is our other big word, right? For lots of students. I'm putting that one here, possibilities.
I like it.
God, I'm glad you're not doing it.
I definitely would be, hey, Google, how do you spell?
Stop. So,
Can you put somewhere on the goals and beliefs or whatever, values and beliefs just to make me out the cultural relevance?
maybe your awareness and
Yes.
relevance.
Good.
Thank you.
Can you explain that for the dumb kids in the class?
Yes, so I'm gonna pick on Old Yeller now. Okay. Old Yeller is about a kid, no wait, the yearling, excuse me, I'm gonna pick on the yearling.
Or I would
They
say,
have to kill the deer because the deer is eating the farm, like,
Spoiler alert.
sorry. My point is, that is not relevant to our students anymore. Our materials need to be relevant to the time and culturally relevant, not just because we have read the yearling for 56 years.
So I think a good example of a place that is happening is like we have the morning coffee club at Wilson.
Yes.
And the books that Susan has picked out for those have been so impressive in terms of things that deal with issues that are happening in kids' lives or that is happening with their peers' lives or things that they can take and go, what? Like the conversations that those cause are, and you know, that, so I think, I mean, there's that happening, but I think.
But it's not in our curriculum.
It's not the curriculum, it's in an extra thing that involves extra involvement and is not something that's accessible to every student.
So she picks up excellent.
Oh, she does, she comes out
Yes,
amazing.
So I think we are talking about the structure situation here again, right? Because I was just talking to a teacher at the high school today, a friend of mine, who is invested in the bias question, reads all the time, and said, it's not right that students of color are told they're going to get an F if they don't put their head underwater during the swim section of PE class. That is not culturally competent, right? It's not, I mean, it's not culturally aware. There's a whole culture of hair in certain groups in our community, right? And to not have policies that are flexible doesn't show that we're valuing all parts of our community.
can I just say, so that would be one of those situations where we have to take that into consideration. If they're going to be a lifeguard, and they are taking that initiative to go that far, then yes, that's something they have to do, and they have to deal with the ramifications of that. But if you're going back to class, and I know I wouldn't have enjoyed swimming in high school because that just wouldn't have been something I would have enjoyed doing. Have that. But that's putting you in a position where you're not comfortable with.
It sets kids apart and everything too. It's not,
And that's why. Like, okay, so maybe swimming isn't for you, and swimming is not for everybody. And there are a whole lot of things that can go in there with social, emotional. What's the online piece that you could do instead?
Yeah, I guess it's that, how can we find flexibility in a system that inherently wants to, it's like inertia toward everybody do the same thing. Everybody be treated the same way, regardless of what is happening outside of the classroom, right? So that, for me, my idea would be infuse flexibility. This is what overarching.
Yeah.
Wherever possible.
Just the things, question. The whys and hows.
Yeah, right. The whys have to inform or have to be a part of how we find that flexibility.
You don't have rules just to have rules.
I think this,
Yes.
I mean, I know I've seen it in higher ed in my own work, but I think I'm totally sure that K-12 has seen it as much as well, that the things that you thought were important or the procedures you thought needed to happen to make something happen suddenly don't seem as important anymore, or as necessary.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like handwritten signatures on things, you know, like this, does that really need it, you know? So I think hopefully this time, if anything good comes from it, is the fact that we've had to pivot and be flexible and hopefully have flexibility of going, is this possible? We stopped doing that for a while, the world didn't end and everything was fine and this, so where do we go from here? So I think hopefully that will lead to those conversations having less, there's less pushback on different levels.
I think we're ready to move things into gold language.
Oh, here we go.
I'm just gonna put this up here because I don't want to forget at each point here to just check in with Justin. You got anything?
Oh, I typed and asked a couple questions along the way of that.
Okay, let's hear them.
Those are a couple pretty extreme examples given. Do we really have teachers doing that in our district? Because that's news to me if we do.
Doing what?
I know that there are treating, yes, I know of another instance of issues like that related to hair and discipline.
Okay, and then another example was given of teachers treating students different because of the color they look or something. Is that really happening around here too?
I don't know what comment you're referring to.
Okay.
I would be.
Yes. Yeah.
I just don't know what specific comment he's referring to. So.
Yeah.
So, but we have data. The district has data along some of those lines that just would need to be fleshed out.
I mean, the Purdue study gives us a good, clear picture of what's going on. I mean, that's not just somebody's feelings, that's actual data, numbers,
Not somebody saying my kid wasn't treated unfairly. It's someone saying, this is how many you have of this, and this is how many of them were disciplined versus how many of those that weren't, or this is how many that passed this based on.
yeah, and it shows that like
there are numbers.
I don't feel discriminated in the schools, but the data shows that there is. Just because I don't feel it and see it doesn't mean that it's not there. The data shows it's there. So, I mean, I don't know what I was getting at it there.
You're getting
I
hyped
did get hyped up. But you get what I was saying, right?
Okay,
No,
so.
I don't. I need more explanation.
Oh, stop.
Shut
You too. All right. I think that common words that we have used are, our pathways. We've used communication.
Do you want me to write these down on a smaller?
No, because I think yeah, that's fine. Pathways, consistency. Hold on. And equity.
And cultural awareness.
I'm lumping that into equity because equity is the outcome of being more culturally
I don't
responsive.
understand that because that was the bias piece from the study.
Yeah.
Pathways, consistency, and what was the other one? Equity?
Equity and communication. And under communication, put what, why, how. Thank you.
Good job. It was 8-legged.
Anybody ever seen the John Mulaney skit, the Write It Down one? Every time we're doing
I love write it down.
watch it.
I'll have to look
it up. I love John Mulaney. All right.
Yeah, watch this.
I have no idea.
Where's
what
our
you're
other,
talking about.
What do you want?
investing resources, improving safety,
On a bad day.
personnel and watch one of these.
They want to get some. We haven't had a whole lot of, just this one.
I
This
think
is just
that-
a consistent one.
Yes. I think this is gonna, because that is part of this. Just why are we doing it the same way we've done it? So, help me.
Let's help each other.
These are all like this.
Right.
So,
But that's because that's our job to give direction with the big picture, and then they get to parse it out given all the details.
They're so lucky.
Yeah. Matt gets to take care of all this, you know? We just take pictures and Matt turns them into reality.
I think it is.
We are fun.
I mean, like, I think a goal should be examining the structure. I mean, like, a lot of these fall into one thing, be able to examine the structures that are leading to inconsistency and inequity and turning. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's all.
I would like to use a stronger word than examine, because we can take a picture of it, but then what do we do with it? What does the staff do with it?
Analyze, and they need to analyze the structures.
Yeah, there you go.
Analyze and act. And I want to go back to something we learned about in our, the thing we went to in November about cultural competency. I want to make sure that some of the data that we're getting, or a lot of data we're getting, is from the students. Because we don't always see ourselves clearly with bias.
Maybe inconsistencies, we want to put those together.
Yeah.
Dang, that had like all the keywords right in there.
Boom, 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 rapid fire.
That's
right
like a
there.
$6,000 sentence right there.
But that actually means something. Instead
Does
of
that mean
just-
something to you? You can understand that? Do something with it.
You can take that to your
Crystal clear.
Justin, can you see this? And I'll say it out loud if you can do it. Analyze and act on structural components and procedures that impact equity and consistency in our educational experience.
Oh my God, it's like you've written a SMART goal before.
Mhm.
It's an actual
And really, the
measurable.
only thing that my mind would add is by level, because it's different elementary, and then middle, and then high.
But that's part of analyzing.
That's why we pay her the big bucks.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
All right.
That's the expert right
Justin,
there.
did you get that?
That's what we get with experts.
Yep.
I think.
Okay.
Great. I think continuing to create, to work
So
on
we've got
creating
consistency
pathways.
here, we've got equity.
That's a continual one, but continue to work on creating pathways for all, you know,
Possibilities and pathways.
pathways and possibilities for all students.
When we say possibilities, Dr. Savage, we're talking about experiences, I
Yes.
believe, right?
Yeah.
Having the
Opportunities.
experience, opportunities to,
Exposure to things.
that's it.
There we go. Exposure.
Slash exposure, just
There we go.
exposure, yeah. Oh,
Are you talking, and then I assume that the culminating piece is the, at the high school level, especially given the new state requirements for career pathways, and then what pre-experiences happen at the middle school level.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Trickle down.
I think we're in line with what you've discussed already as
Okay.
possible pathways by the time you get to college or high school.
I'm gonna grab one more.
Well, I was just gonna make sure I could do that.
Like exposure to foreign language in middle school.
Yeah.
So
That one here.
So I think another goal in my mind too is the communication piece. So now that we have Candace, if you're there still, and her, but the
the role of communication at the service withdrawal level is an equitable part of the communication of how are we reaching and building awareness. That can feed a little bit into that first one, the analyze and act, but I think communication on its own can be its own, I think, goal.
So could I
Yeah.
ask you to maybe go into a little bit of some deeper examples so we understand? So we've added the capability to text now everybody, and
Yes.
because of the Skylar calls being less effective, thank you, Craig, yes, that's amazing. To be able to add remind, and everything is translated in, I know at least Spanish and French. So are you speaking to frequency, or are you speaking to adding to the different ways? Give a few more examples.
I think, well, we talked before when we were there about like, so we have the resources now, we have Leslie, Perkins role, and then kind of, so like, how are we finding out if that communication to different populations, particularly English language learning families, are getting information they need? Like, how are we assessing that people are getting things? Are we seeing that thing? Like, I know for
Are they re-engaging with us
it's at the
concerning
same rate
something?
as others, so,
Yeah, I didn't understand
my
this.
husband, they have they don't do like reverse drive-by things, but it came out on Facebook, like the invites to it, but it has the 6 like most prevalent languages of the school, so it was in 6 different languages.
So how do we know that our families are, that all of our families
Right.
are understanding?
So exactly, the communication is accessible to all of our families, and that can be a hard thing to assess with the communication. I mean, that's a puzzle, it's a cyclical sort of thing.
So I'm gonna, how's this sound? Create and assess communication policies and strategies for best practice and increasing community engagement. And I remember what I just said. Does that make sense?
But I think that because we're excited that we have to create that role of being able to say now we need to make sure that there's some real firm stuff around it. I think the other thing that was brought up before too is that best practices part is our social media and our messaging, consistency and monitoring and all of those things to make sure that things that go out with Moline on them anywhere are things that we would want to be going out. So I don't think it's any huge gap that is happening right now, but just now that we have, we should really be able to make sure that we are using them to their full powers.
Does that sound like what we're getting at?
Yeah.
Yes, I do want the best practice in there to address this, how all the staff and everybody is trained on how to engage with social media, et cetera.
And the outward facing part I think is huge too, as we move forward of promoting these great, fabulous things that are happening in our district, that we have maybe even more of a way to do that. And how are we assessing whether or not we're seeing some good changes in, and how our messages are getting out there and how the community is engaging, not just the Lake community, but, right.
Is there, okay, this may be a stupid question, which it likely is. So is there a way, like for our new texting app, to figure out like what the open rate is and then like the engagement?
Analytics on all that, yeah.
Mine goes skyward, not so much. It just says like, oh, man.
It never said like whether it was open.
It got picked up. Thank goodness for reminds.
Sent it out, it's out there, hopefully we'll all.
So that'd be
But
cool, like to know like when we do languages, like if it's effective,
I just want to say as
different languages.
a parent, if someone who's about to be a senior, so I've been doing this from kindergarten to 17, God help me now. I will say just in the last year, the communication has tripled. Like I don't ever now feel like I have to say to Kayleen or Rowan, what is going on? What did you hear at school today? I feel like I always know now. I'll give an example, the weekly update from Trista, for this online learning has been phenomenal. I've loved it. It has increased tenfold.
Cool. So we have 3 big goals right now. Have we captured the big ideas? Equity we got equity and consistency here. We got our communication, we got our structures.
Pathways.
We got our pathways and possibilities. Or from our community, we have the safety piece as ongoing. Kate, would you mind writing safety under there?
And buildings under there too, like we want to make sure that equity and.
I think we need to, I would be interested in an actual building, a whole goal around buildings.
Yes.
Even though I recognize things might be tough, given that we've already committed 1% for a while.
And can I just ask for it? Can I just say that when my kids were in school, there was a plan. And it wasn't set in stone, but these are the buildings that we want, you know, and this building may close at some future date. There was a whole setup and a plan of that.
What is that called again?
There is a 10-year facility.
The 10-year facilities plan. We need a new facilities plan.
Yeah.
Let me say updated.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to know where we're at on that.
Yeah. Because we just bought property, so.
And how does that fit? How does that fit in?
Yeah, does that affect anything? Is there anything, I mean, I personally wasn't interested, but is there anything we can act on right away? Maybe not. Well, you know.
What do we need this part in here? Because that helps us talk about Coolidge.
Yeah, where we
Helps
are.
us talk about AC. It talks about classroom availability, which was a huge issue that we heard about with
Allendale.
I feel like one thing that we're kind of not addressing is the increasing special ed and how we're going to deal with that.
That's right. But you're also talking
Well,
about
that's
teachers.
that's discipline, that's a whole special ed, that's a whole other ballgame. I just.
Yeah. Can we make that as part of our equitable, educational experience? Because we know we're talking higher and get the gifted shift here because of clustering and differentiation. We know we're always going to be following special ed. You know what I mean? I put them all together.
We are seeing it across every district in this area. Do we have a plan to deal with the increased special ed students entering our district? And I see that coming.
So do we use that as an example that they take away here?
Yeah, maybe a little,
Maybe a little piece that also says special ed in influx.
Yeah, just it's part of like it'd be nice to have a
Specifically,
plan.
differentiation and am I okay reading sped needs? This one was going to be building. No, this one, no. It's going to be nothing.
You were thinking we were going to add it here, so.
Does the district policies and homework policies go with our structures and components?
It goes with consistency.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
I think we've addressed, the only other issue we've addressed is personnel. I think that's an ongoing one.
Yes.
To reduce class size.
Yeah.
Personnel.
2 ends.
2 N's, an E and an L.
Thank you. Coming from the dyslexic child who reads from
I'm not
understanding.
I still can't spell.
Spell check generation.
Mine.
Whole language
I think
generation. I have excellent vocabulary. I can't spell.
So I think we've got 4 big goals that encompass a lot of stuff that we'll see in a chart sometime soon, right? That can, and certainly, Dr. Savage, I mean, I would I think we should hear from you at the end of getting to 4 big goals. And also leave room for things to come back to us about these, what you're thinking. But to me, the context of all this is this value and belief right here. Just because some of these things are gonna take money and some aren't, right? But I wonder if we shouldn't, for this year, make a specific goal related to managing.
An asterisk goal.
Or it probably is just an ongoing fiscal responsibility goal. I mean, doesn't it say somewhere in our pledge?
Be operating under that.
Yeah.
It's entirely one of our charges.
It's one of our charges to do best by the district financially, so.
I think what you have here is really good. It's very helpful. It makes sense. And it kind of flows into a lot of the conversations and the work that we're already doing. One question I do have, just for my understanding, because I recall this the first official time last year, we just got through it very quickly, but would you like to see board goals and district goals, or would you like all of this work to be synthesized into one set of goals? I just want to make sure I understand your expectations.
I think we have to have board goals.
I think so.
Because we don't want to be working on things that are not in alignment.
Right. We do have, there is nothing here that lists board goals, because our board goals are supposed to be district goals put together with you. Right. So I think that's what we should stick with.
So everything synthesized together. So then what I would propose is that we have maybe a draft for review at the June 22 board meeting. That would be kind of a quick turnaround, but just to begin to kind of have a first draft for you to look at and give input. And then maybe we could finalize and approve them in July. Does that sound? Okay?
Yeah, I think any later than July doesn't make sense.
We have one meeting in July, right?
Right.
At the end of July, is that going to be early for you?
I think we have good enough feedback and direction from you all at the June meeting, we'll do our best to get cracking on synthesizing this, and our retreat is the 9th and the 10th. And so I think we can at least come up with a draft. That's the main goal, is to come up with a draft, synthesize everything that you have here, match it up with what our data is telling us, and bring back a draft then on June 22 for as that first read or something like that.
Okay. Question though, are there things, I guess, as we're going through this, are there things that are coming to your mind though that are like totally missing? Like, are there things that you have this experience
that you see as a goal
as we work toward things that we should be considering to make sure are included in what this looks like?
As I think about the pay structure in my mind, I work better if I can kind of organize it and kind of compartmentalize it. So definitely when you say structures, I think systems, they're kind of the same thing. And I agree, we need some better alignment of our systems. Giftedness is a system. Discipline is a system. Career pathways is a system. So that's kind of how I'm thinking of it, but we may call it one thing or the other, but it's all sort of the same thing. And in my mind, because equity is really threaded across all of it, it's in curriculum, it's in facilities, it's in for people, it's in really everything. I don't envision an equity goal, I envision an equity lens on all of our goals. So I'm just kind of starting to think about all of this. It's making sense. It's really good work.
One of the words that I think of, like you think of systems, and where we wrote down structure, but along with structure, I just think of the culture of the institution. That's what it is. We really want a culture of value to everybody's life experience and their talents and who they are. And not, oh, this student's a pain in the butt because they don't do things
Right.
the way they did it 20 years ago, you know.
Can I add something to that? Value in all talents.
Actually, I just want to say, in terms of the communication one, I think the other part that I think about that is that as we look at, because of the region we're in and the whole tax-based thing and people choosing Moline and all of that, of just empowering the new position as well as everything we're doing to make sure that the community is coming to us as a district of distinction and that it's viewed that way in terms of when they need to reach out to somebody about an article in the paper that now they have definitely go, you know what I mean? Like there's those sorts of things happening. And so it's not that there isn't some of these plans and things already in place, but to say that now we have a new position that we need to kind of make sure that we're putting structure and policy in place that really works to empower that to be as efficient and effective as possible.
Do we have any more ongoing goals that we want to add? I have safety, personnel, and fiscal responsibility.
I think for me, the building piece is also an
That's what I was going to say. Do
ongoing
you want
goal.
to do buildings or that's not the.
Just say,
Yeah, because there is more of a specific goal. We want an update to the facilities plan. But on that, the ongoing is we want better facilities. So
yeah.
We always want our buildings to be in good shape.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, let's put that down there, Kate.
What,
Buildings.
Okay.
The only other thing that I can think of that we were going to begin working on in fourth quarter and didn't have the chance is I really do believe it's time to recalibrate our district mission and vision statement. And so I would take the entire first semester on getting as much stakeholder input as possible. And I was just starting, I made it to one PTA and then everything was shut down. So using some great technology like Poll Everywhere and some different ways to get parent feedback, it's definitely one thing that I would like to come out of this year coming is to have enough community input from all of our enough stakeholder input from our parents at all of our schools, but then also engaging our community. And I would love to have a big a culminating event if we can all gather in the spring to pull it all together. That's definitely something I would like to accomplish this year.
Great. I would love that. I would love that.
Justin, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, good.
All right, cool. Can you see the 4 goals as written, or you heard them go?
I heard them. I can see the boards there with it written on it, but I can't read them from this distance. It's all right.
Yeah.
I can look them over in person later if I need to.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for your input. Glad you were on the call.
I'll take pictures and I'll email them to you all so we can keep it fresh in our mind.
Sounds good.
And then, so then are you good with like a first read?
Yeah.
Yes. A second?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think everybody's good, yeah? Yep. Okay, well, we just need a motion to adjourn then.
So move. A second.
All in favor?
I did.
Aaron and Andy. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you for doing this with me, Kate.
I'm fine with being the gopher.
Anybody want to do, oh, we want to take pictures first. So I think we can grow last year's, yeah? And these go back there? No, for real? You seriously want to keep these?